Okay, so about the Asherah, right, who Asherah pole was. Now, in the Bible, right, hold on, let me see if I can put this back here. Hold on, you guys. Okay. So, in the Bible, whenever God had when God had decided to create humans, right? Humans. It didn't just say that God created. He said, let us, right? He said, let me try to get this. Sorry, you guys. I'm talking to Heidi on the laptop. I'm trying to get y'all up here too. Okay. So, when God made humanity, he said, let us make humanity in our image. Let's means that there's more than one. Our image means multiple, right? And when he made humanity, it was man and woman, right? So there was a queen of heaven, like there's a king of heaven, right? Okay, so God is actually the God of war, of order, of vengeance, of wrath, of, that, right? And Asherah, right? Asherah pole, who was mentioned in the Bible specifically 40 different times, not by name. And whenever you do see Asherah pole in the Bible, it's of God saying to take the Asherah poles down and burn them. Why? Because he was a God of war, a God of wrath. And at that time, there were many different deities, many different gods. Think of like the Romans, right? And the Greeks, how many different gods and how many, like the way that things were back then is, you had a God of love, a God of, different things. Well, because he was so authoritative, because he was so that one could say, and a God of war, nevertheless, he put it down and go upstairs. I don't want to hear it. I'm in a video. He actually made it to where all the other gods weren't, they couldn't come against him. They couldn't even try to take a spot, because he was like, nobody is stronger than me, nobody can defeat me, so I must be that ultimate one. Meanwhile, so many people were not only worshiping Asherah as the goddess, the God of heaven, right, the queen of heaven, because of her grace, her mercy, her joy, her understandings, and her nurturingness, right? So many people start worshiping her. He even let it be known in the Bible, he is a jealous God. So he told them, do away with her. She was God's wife. Well, that same understanding has been translated throughout times, right? Because that was just the Bible's understanding. But there's a lot of different artifacts of Asherah pole. You can actually Google her right now and it'll tell you who Asherah pole was, God's wife. And then they'll bring up Mother Mary, because they're kind of linked and based off the same principal individual. Just like, Elohim, Jehovah, Elohim, God, Allah, so on and so forth. Many names. Same as her, Asherah. At one point, they called her Lilith. I don't know if you know into the Bible where they had like the first woman, right? Because Eve wasn't the first woman. Adam was first married to Lilith. And Lilith got cast out because she wanted to overpower Adam. Okay? And that's when God made Eve. But then Eve was of her own nature, and that's the understanding. And throughout history, it's been a battle between the masculine and the feminine energies of like, okay, right, you had your Roman gods, Hercules, who was strong. Then you had your women who were beautiful. But then we also think back in the days, prostitutes were actually seen as like high standard people. Which, if you think back, Mary Magdalene, right? Prostitutes were actually seen as goddesses of love. Okay? Until after that time of God wanting to rule out the women and then persecuting women and trying to blame things on women, right? Then they turned that into a shameful thing, right? But before that, we were seen as that was our strength, because we bring children into this world. Our sexuality is a part of our power. And, you know, so that understanding is coming back. And throughout the different stages of the world, we've seen different women come in and different men come in. You know, like I said, you had the Vikings, the women, the Vikings, right? You had the Viking women, strong, fought. They could do everything that men could do, right? Then we had our cavemen. Then we had our giants. We had what? We had our giant men, and then we had what women? Amazons, right? We had our Amazon women, beautiful, tall beings, giant legs. Okay. You know, then we had different goddesses and different gods and different ones being worshipped. And currently we have Catholicism. Okay, we got Christianity, which is based off of God and Jesus, but it left out a lot of parts, which we know, if you've read into the apocryphies, that many books were taken out, and a lot of those books that were taken out actually have to do with the women of the Bible. Why did they remove the women from the Bible? To glorify the men. Because when the women were in there, our stories were not the same. Our stories kind of seemed like we were somewhat glorified. Why? Naturally, right? Men are the patriarchs. Women are the monarchs, right? Patriarch, what do we live in today? A patriotic society, right? We're patriots, right? But when a woman goes into presidency, we will become a monarchy, right? And that'll be woman-based. Logic, equality, the things that women fight for. Versus, and not even fighting, but there were times in this world where women actually were the leaders of the world, and we had peace in this world. But God was not one of peace. Now was he? So, and why? Think about it. With the devil, right? Why would he put the devil in charge of a whole world? Think about it. Like, you know what I mean? But even then, they said that there was a woman of hell. And she was the more nurturing, caring, kind, and compassionate. Think about the Greeks, right? There was Zeus, right? Who's in his fury. Then there was Hades. Hades had a woman. Dang it, what was her name? Yeah. Then there was a woman named I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think, because I don't remember her name. But if you watch Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, she was in there. Anyway, so there was her. And even in that understanding, she wanted to leave him, but he kept her captive. Right? And she, you know, there's a lot of instances where in history women were on top than when men were on top, versus what we need to do, which is make it equal. Right? But that's the hardest part, is because men feel like, okay, men have strong, men have, we can do the physical things, we can be emotionally strong, we can make things happen, so on and so forth. But in another aspect, okay, the sperm has the brain and the spinal cord, so really the men have the life, so we do need the men. They're equally as powerful. But without the host who holds and nurtures that child, it wouldn't make it. So, and that's a 9-month process. They hold it for as long as they do. We hold it for 9 months. And most women take care of it after that process. So, it is an equality, really. It really is an equality, if you really want to think about it. But our patriotic system made it to where the men are out there working. And well, back in the day, okay, we think about caveman times. This is going all over the place with men and women, but here we go anyway. Back in the caveman times, the women were having the babies and didn't want to risk the babies and the women. And the men were stronger and smarter about how to hunt, and they were better with certain things. So it was a natural adaptation that they go out and hunt. And we took our cues from animals. Okay, this is why people do bird watching and shit like that. Excuse my French. But this is why they do bird watching. So we learn our animalistic traits through that. And it's just crazy to think that God had Asherah pole, who meant the sacred tree or pole near a Canaanite, right? The sacred tree or pole. And then one can think, well, okay, if that was God's wife, then he put on earth humans, right? And these people were mating to have the children. Then all of a sudden, he just gave Mary this child without having to fornicate. Just gave her a child out the blue. Just, hey, you know what I mean? Right, like, here you go, the Jesus, you know what I mean? The Messiah. There was love in that. And that's why in the Bible it says he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And that's why, it says that, like, women understand that the men are the head of the household, but the man must honor the woman as well, right? And there's a lot that goes into that, and that's why we're meant to be a couple. Even whenever God made people, he made us in couples. He made us that way to come together, right? And of course you had people who were transgender way back in the day. There were transgender people. There were transgender gods. Then there was homosexuals, there was lesbians, there was, you name it. But that's still been a thing, even way back then. That's love is love is love is love is love. But in order to procreate, it does take a man and a woman up until the 20th century, where we now make babies in petri dishes. There's a lot of people who are adopting children. There's children that are being scientifically made in embryos, and robots who are having babies. Where even this century things are different. But the fact is, that's the facts. And I just thought that, as I was telling Heidi, which is actually on the thing right now, but as I was thinking to tell her about it, I was like, well, it's a good lesson to kind of talk to you guys about too, and kind of get like an overall thing, not to waste energy and not to waste stories, because that's the truth, and I encourage you guys to look this stuff up on your own time and stuff like that, and even look more into it, look into the the goddesses of the beginning of time and how they ruled and how the world was versus when the men ruled, and how it has been, and That's why we do have a divine feminine and a divine masculine. That is why we have a twin flame, right? So, yeah. Just something to think about, something to ponder. Yeah. But you guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay blessed, never stressed, with much peace, much power, much love, much light, and of course, much joy. I'll catch you guys next time.